Okay, don't do that, because what you want to do is tap it on a hard surface. You're blending. Doesn't that feel good?
Oh my god.
Yes.
That's disgusting.
Okay. Well, welcome to the 5th episode of Damon is Hungry. Yeah. And then see you dressed up for the 5th episode. Yes, very good. So, in between the last episode and this episode, Damon kind of made a request. And that is, can you cook something that's really, really easy that any student can do that's relatively cheap? And so that's what we're going to attempt today. We're going to do a typical North American comfort food called meatloaf. Meatloaf. And meatloaf came about, probably back in the, I forget now, probably back in the 30s where people were strapped for money. They wanted to make they couldn't afford good cuts of beef, so they wanted to use cheaper cuts of beef and just make it stretch. And so so meatloaf is a way to make a meal that can last for a little while. In other words, you can get several servings out of it. It's relatively inexpensive to put together, and it's actually very, very easy. There's only 2 chopping steps, and then everything gets mushed together, and we bake it, and it's really quick.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so let's do it. Okay, so what we're going to do is do a little bit of chopping up and getting ready. So for this recipe, we are going to need an onion, and these are actually big onions. So I'm thinking maybe, we'll chop them and see what happens. We're going to need to chop up an onion very fine, and we're going to need to chop up a green pepper very, very fine. So we're going to do those 2 chopping things first. Put everything into the bowl, and then we'll move on to the next step. So, do you remember how to chop an onion?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so you have to cut right.
Can I use another?
Okay.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is just chop the onion in half. Okay. And then what we're going to do is going this way along the onion. What we're going to do is take your 2 fingers like this, and then what we're going to do so that it doesn't fall apart is this. We're just going to, what I'm doing is just slicing, right? Very, very thin slices. So we're just doing thin slices across the onion, half. Okay, good. Now what I want you to do is rotate it 90 degrees, and then what we're going to do again, small slices so that it comes into very, very tiny pieces.
That's cool. That's cool.
So next time we do this, I'm going to have to bring some sharper knives, because the kitchen is not equipped with a lot of knives. And if the pieces are still too big, then you can just use your knife and chop it around. So what we want to do is get a nice small mince of onion. So remember the rocking motion that I've taught? So you're leaving the tip of the knife on the board, and all you're doing is rocking it up and down, right? So
like this?
Yeah.
Good.
And so we're only going to use, because there's a lot of onion, the onions are big, we're only going to use half the onion, because we put too much more in, then it'll be too much onion. Okay? And once you think you've got the onion down to the right size.
Why aren't you quiet?
Well, I will in a second. Okay, so, all right. So now what we're going to do is slice up a green pepper. So basically, it's just going to start from the top and work our way back up to the top. And then I'm just going to put the tip of the knife into the very top and just cut like this. And then that takes that out. Okay? Okay, so what I want you to do is just like start at the top, that's it. Okay. But don't go in the center. All you're doing is cutting through the top. And then down, down, and then through the bottom. Work your way around the bottom. That's it. Yeah. So the idea is that you're taking the slice, and where'd you slice it? And then working your way back up to the top again. And now cut around.
I see.
Okay. Yeah, just watch your fingers. You only want to eat the green pepper and not your fingers. What we're going to do is we're going to take the green pepper and just cut it into thin slices. All right? Very, very thin slices. All right, and then, again, we're just going to dice them up into tiny pieces. Next thing we want to do is we've got our onion, chopped onion. We've got our chopped green pepper. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some breadcrumbs. And yeah, and the breadcrumbs are going to act as a bit of a binding agent for the beef that we're going to put into it. So it's about 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs. I don't have a measuring cup, so I'm just guessing right now. Okay, all right. So there is our breadcrumbs in there. So 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs. And then what we want to do is we're going to add some cheese. So we're going to put in some Parmesan, or you can use Parmesan cheese. Parmesan cheese, just to give it some extra flavor. And of course, I have a proper measuring tool, but we'll eyeball it for now. Okay, so we got our cheese in there, and that's going to help bind the meat. So no, just regular egg. So we're going to do 2 eggs in here. Okay, don't do that, because what you want to do is tap it on a hard surface.
That's not right?
Okay, so cracking open Worcestershire sauce. Okay, and then just to add a little bit of flavoring to that as well. Okay?
All right.
Okay, so recapping, we've got diced onions, diced green pepper, we've got breadcrumbs, 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs, a 1/2 cup of Romano cheese or Parmesan cheese. We've got a teaspoon of Worcester sauce or Worcestershire sauce, and we put in some garlic powder.
Right, what's the next?
Now we're going to add the meat. The meat. So we've got some ground beef, and we're using lean ground beef, and we need 1.5 pounds. So these are roughly 1 pound. And dump it in here because we're going to get our hands dirty in a second. Okay, and then to make up the 1/2 pound, we're just going to add the... All right, so I'm going to take 1/2, and you take 1/2. You can dump it in there. Salt and pepper. So a little salt, a little salt. And now you get your hands in there.
Right.
And what? Oh no, forgot one more ingredient, and that is we need a cup of milk. All right, that's important. So we're going to do a cup of milk and a cup of milk. And okay, so now that we've got that all in there, now we get in with our hands and we're going to just smush it all together. So what you're doing is you're blending. Doesn't that feel good?
Oh my god.
Yes.
That's disgusting.
All right, so you're just, now, get in there. Get in there with your hands. See how mine is all mixed together?
Wow.
You need to be this consistency here, okay?
That looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
What's the trick though?
But turn, like what I'm doing is I turn when I, there it is. There we go. Now you got the technique.
Is it good enough?
I don't know. I don't know whether you're actually mixing it or massaging a cat.
Is that okay?
Yeah, keep going, keep going. Get it all mixed in and like, come on, dig it in from the
Don't
bottom.
touch my head.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so now that we've got it all mixed together, okay, now what we need to do is put it into a loaf pan. Okay? What we want to do is, whoops, dump it all into the loaf pan, press it down in to form the shape of the loaf. Okay?
I'll be honest, it's a weird feeling.
Okay.
There we go.
There it is. All right. So now,
All right. Is that?
okay, now just get your hands out of there before I kill you. Okay, we're trying to avoid getting the sides, but you got the sides. Okay, never mind. Okay, so now we've got them in. So what we're going to do is add one more ingredient, but before we do that, I'm just going to wash my hands. Okay, Kevin, just let me... Okay, all right. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to just put on over a coat of ketchup.
Okay.
That's all we're going to do.
That's
So,
easy.
yeah, very, very easy. And that makes a lot of noise. And so I'm just going to squirt, oops, come on, there we go. Squirt on a layer of ketchup, knife, and then spread out the ketchup so that it's smooth and even. Come on, shake down.
Now 50.
Yeah.
And then-
Okay, now spread it evenly over the top. I don't know what the hell you're doing.
Exactly what you
No, well, no, not exactly.
Maybe a little bit.
Well,
Is that?
okay, give me the knife. Give me the knife. Okay, so on the top, you're not digging in, right? So you're just really all you're doing is spreading it across the top.
Because that's not McDonald's ketchup.
Yeah, that's right. Now we've got our two things ready to go in the oven. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it into an oven that's preheated to 350 degrees, and it's going to cook for 45 minutes.
Okay.
350 degree oven for 45 minutes. So we're just good. All right, so now we're ready. We've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're just going to put it in the middle rack, and it's going to cook for 45 minutes. Okay?
All right.
So just open the oven.
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Okay, put yours in. All right, I'm just going to push that in a little bit more. And so once it's finished cooking, we'll take it out of the oven. We'll let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and slice it up, and we're ready to eat.
Yeah, we're going to take a picture. No.
Okay, so the timer's gone off. It's been baking at 350 for 45 minutes. Now we're ready to take it out of the oven. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes, because if we were to cut into it now, it would all fall apart. Now, just based on looking at this, which one do you think Damon created and which one do you think I created? So Damon did one and I did one. Of course, our audience who's viewed it knows exactly which one is done, but the audience here doesn't know which one is Damon and which one is mine. So now what we're going to do is just let that sit for a few minutes, and while that's sitting and cooling a little bit, we're going to set the table. We'll get some plates, we'll get some forks and knives, we'll prepare our salad side dish, and we're all set and ready to eat. Yay! Okay, so we've let this cool for about 5 to 10 minutes, and now we're ready to go ahead and serve. And so we're just going to cut up an appropriate slice. The first piece is always the tricky one to get out. And I'm just going to use a spatula. Plate, 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 plate. There we go. And then we're going to just put a little side salad to go along with that. And there. Meatloaf.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll see you
see
in
you
there
in
next
the
time
next
on
time.
Damon is Hungry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.